The first hills rising from the Po Valley, north of the river and straddling the regions of Lombardy and Emilia, are home to the Castello di Luzzano estate. This area has a particular calling for viticulture. Geographically located at the 45th parallel, in a belt that includes Europe's finest wines, it has age-old origins and is one of Italy's most complete and important territories for the variety of its grapes and the quality of its wines. Luzzano's dual soul, both Lombard and Emilian, is revealed in all its beauty as it rises at the centre of the hill, accommodating the castle and its surrounding buildings. At an elevation of 270 metres, Luzzano offers a breathtaking landscape of viticulture, with a view of the Oltrepo Pavese on one side and the hills of the Colli Piacentini on the other. The Castello di Luzzano estate has belonged to the Fugazza family since the turn of the last century. Known as the Woman of Wine, the estate's current owner, Giovanella Fugazza, accompanies you in a day of vine dressing in early winter. It is a moment of preparation for the new year in the silence of nature as it falls to sleep. And it is a day of love for the estate, revealing great skill amassed in years in the vineyard, a passion for the history of places and the total respect for nature that only those who have always borne the countryside in their hearts can have. And despite the extreme creativity and the modern design of each new label, the wines tell the story of unchanged values. The property extends over 110 hectares, 75 of which are under vine. Thanks to its unique and special location, straddling regional boundaries, it is as if two areas of winemaking excellence have magically flowed together to bring out their differing characteristics. The vineyards to the northwest in the Oltrepo Pavese and to the southeast in the Colli Piacentini rise at elevations between 180 and 270 metres and are planted all round the hill that rises gently towards the cluster of buildings that houses the estate complex.
We are in the most ancient part of the castle, and here I have brought together our origins. For example, the type of soil, which is a calcareous marl of fossil origin. Small shells can still be found in with sand, because millions of years ago, these lands were covered by the sea. Luzzano was born in the 1st century after Christ. It was a Roman fundum whose owner was already cultivating the vine. Bearing witness to this are the fragments of wine amphorae we found in digs we had done for this villa, which show that wine was very important. There are pouring vessels and statuettes dedicated to the god Priapus. So this estate has a very ancient tradition that has continued over the centuries to the present time. In this album, I have collected moments of my life, and above all, images with my sister Maria Giulia, who was the person who led me to this life in the countryside and this activity as vine dresser. She took care of the estate. She dealt with the estate with my father, and when he died, she asked me to join her in this activity that she truly loved. Ours was a highly dynamic collaboration, a lot of fun, very creative. Our life was really nice. We divided the chores while sharing the work. My sister has been gone since 2004, and I continue to run my estate with even more love. with the desire to always pursue our image of quality and of special wines. This salon has many elements that have helped me in choosing the symbols for my estate, and my wine labels too. The yellow walls, the ceiling with suns painted on it, the fireplace with the family coat of arms. All these elements are in my head and in my heart, so I have always used them to represent my wine product. I'm standing before the portrait of my father Emilio, who had a great influence over my own and my sister Maria Giulia's upbringing, because he was a father with a personality that loved culture. A little bit of a philosopher and someone who loved beauty. He taught us his aesthetic sense of the things that surround us and that we have sought to transport into our estate, into the houses we restored, in the way we have dressed our wines, how we have presented the product of our work. They were 12 brothers and sisters, and they too were quite close. And it is important to me to stress this union, this family that always got along, that marked our upbringing. This is my mother, who unfortunately passed away when we were quite young. I am crossing the center of the estate, which is the small town of Luzzano. To my right are the farmers' homes, the old houses where a family lived behind every door you see, and the family farmed this land. These houses are in Emilian territory. They were once in the state of Parma and Piacenza. In front of me, the church belongs to the Piedmontese diocese of Tortona. Behind me, on the other side of the path, is the castle with my residence and the wine cellars, and that's in Lombard territory. I am in the forecourt of this neoclassical church, which was built by the Counts of Pisoni in 1830. They were the owners of Luzzano during that period, and it is a church that reminds me a great deal of my childhood. Running up and down these steps with the farmers, the young farmers, the farmers' children, we had a lot of fun. It was a place for us to play and also to just spend time together. To this day, this is Luzzano's most sought-after place because it's a beautiful landscape. There are these columns that give us a sense of depth towards the sky. And there's a wonderful sunset. That's why there are always people on this portico. I'm at the center of this church, which is in neoclassical style with a Greek cross layout. Its side naves are smaller. The central nave is dedicated to the child Mary.
The estate's places have an age-old history that began in the 1st century after Christ. The most ancient parts of the castle date to around 1000. Going back to the late 19th century is the large park, whose age-old flora features palm and maritime pine, bearing witness to the place's unbelievable mild and temperate microclimate, just perfect for vineyards. The merlons on the ancient walls are drawn on the Merlot Blue label. At the entrance to the estate is an 18th century customs house, now a delightfully charming inn. The passion and skill of the 3rd generation at the estate. Giorgio Gobbi, production manager.
The workmen are pruning using pneumatic shears to remove the fruiting canes they have produced in the year that has just come to an end. Then they will use hand shears to select the fruiting cane they will be producing for the year to come. This is an operation that will be done entirely by hand, because it has to be very precise and appropriate for the high-quality production.
We are in a low-cordon-trained Barbera vineyard, and we have seen mechanical pre-pruning to cut the vine stock from the past year and allow the tendrils attached to the wires to be torn off more easily.
Now we'll go to select the fruiting canes to guarantee an appropriate bud load for the plant. This operation is necessary for quality production.
This lovely green colour you see between one row and another is because here at my estate I follow a program of integrated biological pest control that calls for mowing the grass and not weeding the vineyard. This creates a natural fertilizer that the plant feeds on, thus greatly limiting shortcomings and unmet needs in the vine's nourishment, while we avoid using chemical fertilizers.
In vineyards of modern design, with high planting density, the varieties most typical of the territory are raised, such as Barbera, Bonarda and Pinot Nero reds. Prominently featured among the whites is Malvasia di Candia aromatica. The estate is one of the area's most highly appreciated producers. Joining these historical varieties are such international favourites as Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon, Shiraz and Chardonnay. The grapes originate exclusively from the farm's vineyards after extremely careful quality selection. Aromatic, young, cheerful wines. They enhance the virtues of the different types of grape. They are accompanied by more complex versions that culminate with the major reserves, refined in wood. Giovinella Fugazza personally creates the names and labels, dedicating them to her most beloved places, to the estate's historic figures, or to the emotions that accompany her in creating a new wine. The Bonarda becomes uprising for the sparkling type. The dry, sparkling Malvasia is busybody for its intense scent, provocative and brazen in its sweet version, and touch of silk for the softness and elegance in its smooth variety. Luzzano's historic vine dressers, Carlino and Romeo, are depicted on the wines dedicated to them. The Pinot Nero is the dark humour in the red winemaking, and Magot in white. To the sides of the castle courtyard are the departments for processing and bottling the wines. Aging and refining take place in ancient underground cellars. The designs balance from vineyard to cellar. Stefano Testa, enologist.
Here we're in the department where red wines are aged in small French oak barrels called barriques, and I'm tasting the Romeo 2010, which is the Gutturno Reserva, one of the estate's most precious wines. This wine was placed in the barrique in late autumn 2010 and will stay there for several months before being removed from the barriques and prepared for bottling. In addition to Romeo, Castello di Luzzano produces other wines in barriques, including Rosso Oltrepo Reserva, a Cabernet Sauvignon and a Merlot, all barrique aged. Romeo is a Gutturno composed of Barbera and Bonarda grapes from the estate's finest and most suited vineyards. The Reserva di Luzzano red wines are produced with a winemaking process that involves maceration on the skins that can last more than 20 days in order to extract as much as possible of the finest tannins and the smoothest scents for an aged wine.
Wine is a masterpiece of nature, and at Castello di Luzzano, art plays a leading role. Modern artworks adorn the entry to the cellar and the tasting room, in a perfect balance of the ancient and modern that can be found when tasting these alluring wines, whose quality is recognized every year by the industry's most prestigious critics.
These are the great red wines of Castello di Luzzano. We have chosen to best represent the potential of Castello di Luzzano's terroir through varieties quite different from one another. We have chosen vineyards present in the estate for more than 30 years, Cabernet Sauvignon to produce Caplas wine, Merlot to produce Merlot Bleu, a blend of Barbera and Bonarda grapes to make Romeo, a Gutturno Reserva, and for Luzzano 270, a great Barbera, joined by small quantities of Croatina, Pinot Nero and Shiraz.